Good evening, Tottenham fans. I went to the game on Sunday with my wife. Very upbeat, very optimistic. Just had a good result against Liverpool. Really good performance against Atletico Madrid. I really thought we turned the corner, and so I was looking forward to it. You know, there's a mini parade for the bus, the coach coming in, you know, cheering on the players as they was entering the stadium. And I got into the stadium, and it's the loudest it's been in a long, long time. You know, the crowd were absolutely fantastic. They did their job. They were so good. They were singing. They were cheering on the players. Even when the players were, you know, being a bit lackluster, they were still cheering them on. They're still singing Tottenham. The crowd were absolutely amazing. But there's something I saw in this game that a manager, you'd have to have some sort of superpower to fix. Because what I saw was not bad players. It wasn't players that are not caring. At first, you know, I've done a video saying they just didn't care because I think I was a bit emotional, but sitting there looking at it, it wasn't that they didn't care. It's they just didn't have the belief or the confidence to do the things they know they can do. And something needs to change. Psychology, something they need in these 3 weeks. They need to have somebody to get into their minds and get back to how they were before. Because, you know, I'm seeing Romero like labour back slowly for the second goal, like really slow. Because I was there live, I watched it live. You might not have captured it on the cameras, but he was jogging back, and the ball went past him with ease, and then Morgan Gibbs-White tapped it in for the second. Jed Spence never running in behind. I think he did it once in the whole game. Never running in behind, always calling to feet, and very, very one-footed. So it's very hard to work with him and Porro on the right-hand side because they just couldn't link up. Porro wasn't getting the ball. He hasn't got the pace to run through either. The only two players, I'd say three players. Actually, if I have to think about it, if this was the first time I ever watched Spurs and I've never seen them before, don't know anything about Spurs, and I went to go and watch them live, I would have said Kevin Danso was our best defender. He's our best defender. That guy there, he's the best one. He was winning every header. He was winning every challenge. He was the one dominating in that back three. Romero wasn't. Van der Ven wasn't. It was Danso. So big up to Danso. Very, very good performance from him. Then if you think about who else is a good player in there, is it one of the senior players? No. It was Archie Gray. Archie Gray was still a standout player. And that's the first time I've actually watched him live because he hasn't played all the other times I've gone. And he is a very, very good player. There was a one situation, as again, I don't know whether they caught this on the cameras, but the right back, Spence and Porro, both allowed, I think it was Adoy, I can't remember who it was, but just drifting past both of them, and Gray had to mop it up, and then Gray turned around and started shouting at both of them, saying, why are you letting them through? What are you doing? Like a 20-year-old is telling them how to do their job, because both of them were leaving them to each other. There's like, you can have him. And in the end, Gray had to come in and step in and win the ball. In the first half, Gray was the best player on the pitch, not just for Tottenham, on the pitch. He was the best player on the pitch. He was getting the balls. He was looking up to do the long balls, and his balls to tell were 40-yard passes to tell were absolutely spot on. Reminded me of a little young Glenn Hoddle, the way he was doing it. And Tell was the only dangerous player we had on the pitch. And I think the biggest problem was we had no quality. There was no quality to open them up. There was nobody putting any through balls. The amount of times I said to my wife, all they've got to do is play it through. Like Tell a few times tried to run in behind, but players were looking up and then choosing the easy option instead. There was no bravery again. I think something happens to these players when they're playing at home. when they played at home against Atletico Madrid, they had nothing to lose, and I think that really helped. But I think when the pressure was on and something goes against us, like a 1-0 defeat, like 1 goal behind, all the senior players seem to crumble, and all the younger players seem to look like the better players on the pitch. And I think, if I'm not wrong, that's what was happening last season. When everything was going wrong last season, Bergvall stepped up. He was the player of the year last year. And I'm telling you now, Gray will be one of the players of the year for me this season. The younger guys are stepping up, but the senior players are not. And that tells you something that we probably already know, but we need to start speaking about. This is not a manager's problem. This is not a manager. The manager is not the problem here. You can get any managers in, but if you can't get these players to play, you've got to get something out of their heads. They seem very scared to play football. And the fact when we were 2-0 down and Romero, the captain, the senior player, the captain, got the ball to his feet and was walking with the ball, just walking, no urgency, no nothing, no trying to play the ball forward. Nobody was giving him any options, to be honest, but he was just had no urgency in his play. It's very laboured. Weird decisions from the manager as well, taking Spence and Van de Ven off because they're our 2 fastest players. So it was easier for Forest to get in behind. But Spence was anonymous in the first half anyway. He didn't really do much. So he had to change something, and we were 1-0 down. So I understand it to an extent. I don't know whether he was upset with the attitudes of the players, because I just don't know. The first half wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. It wasn't great. Forest weren't very good in the first half either, which really helped us look a bit better. We could have scored a couple of goals if Richarlison, squared it instead of blasting it across the goal and just tapped it across the goal. That would have been an easy tap in for Tell. Tell hit the crossbar. So there was chances. But there's only 3 players for me that really stood out, and that's Tell, Danso, and Archie Gray. When Xavi and Bergvall came on, I saw a bit more urgency. I saw a bit more urgency from them too. But again, 2 younger players with the urgency. Maybe it's time to start playing the younger players. Maybe it's time. Have we got anything to lose? Not really. But we do honestly have to make a decision. We've got 3 weeks off. We have to make a decision whether we're going to change managers, which I think we're going to have to. I think poor Igor, the players did not respond to any of the crowd. They did not do anything of his game plan, because that's not his game plan. We get battered, and then he finds out his father's passed away. So my thoughts are with Tudor and his family. So obviously there's going to be no Tudor bashing in this video. That would be very harsh. But I think that's going to be on his mind now as well. And I just think maybe Spurs will part ways with him. Obviously not straight away, but they will end up parting ways with him eventually. But we have to make a decision what we're going to do, and it has to be the right decision this time. But the players have to respond, because it doesn't matter who we get in. If the players are frightened to play, then it doesn't matter what manager we get in. It's going to make 0 difference. It's going to make no difference whatsoever. Tottenham were doing a lot of running, but not a lot of the right running, if that makes sense. They're not running in the right way. They're pressing after the ball's been played, and the pressing should be pressed before the player even gets the ball. And it was always reactionary pressing rather than constructed pressing. And and I'm sure Tudor told them not to do that, but they still did anyway. I was seeing players looking up and seeing there was no pass on, but still playing the pass anyway. I saw Papa Sarr look up. I saw him see that no one was there and still pass the ball off the pitch. It was baffling. I was like, and then the groans started coming in, and then, it was horrible being in that ground after the second goal, because everyone could see Spurs were getting worse and worse as the game was going on, and their confidence was getting lower and lower. And it just seemed like after a while, they just didn't want to be there anymore. They just wanted to go home. And after all that, optimism I did in my last video saying I believe again, it's absolutely gone backwards again, and it's gone probably even worse than we were before we got that win against Atletico. It's against a rival relegation side. Luckily, we're not in the relegation zone yet because West Ham lost again. Arsenal cheered me up a little bit by bottling another cup final, so that cheered me up a little bit, but we've got massive problems of our own. We can't even laugh at Arsenal because of how bad our situation is at the moment. So things can turn around. They can still turn around. Even if it's doom and gloom, it can still turn around. I think I've been saying it before, Tudor. Get Sherwood and Harry Redknapp in, get some Tottenham boys in there, turn this around, get some confidence going through these lads. They need some confidence, especially at home. The crowd couldn't have been any better for them. So they can't be blaming the crowd now for booing. I know they booed towards the end. I'm not being funny. They deserved it. They were poor. They were really bad. I never boo, but yeah, it started to get toxic in there, especially because Nottingham Forest fans were taking the mick with their chants as well, which really didn't help because all you could hear was the Forest fans singing because you could hear a pin drop in the Spurs section. You really could. So it can be changed. It can be turned around. It's not over till it's over, but my optimism for this season is dropping week on week, and it's lucky we've got these 3 weeks off because we really need to regroup. We really need to realize who we are. We know we can play well. I know these players can play better than that. I know they can, but will they? That's the difference. Will they do it? Are they up for the fight? Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think we're definitely going down now? I can't argue against it, but like I said, it's not over till it's over. Thank you for watching. Come on, you Spurs.